In the scorching Arizona heat, a young man named Howard Schultz stood outside a small coffee shop. He wasn't there for caffeine. He was there for a dream. A dream that would change how the world drinks coffee. Long before Starbucks became a global giant, it was a humble shop in Seattle selling roasted beans, not brewed drinks. Founded in 1971, it was more bookstore than cafe. No espresso machines, no baristas, just beans and a passion for quality. Schultz, originally from Brooklyn, first encountered Starbucks in 1981. At the time, he was working for a Swedish kitchenware company. One visit to this quirky Seattle shop, and he was hooked, not just on the coffee, but the potential. In 1982, Schultz joined Starbucks as Director of Retail Operations and Marketing. But he had a bigger vision. He'd seen the Italian espresso bar scene and imagined it in America. Cozy cafes, social hubs, not just take-and-go counters. In Milan, he watched locals sip espresso, chat with baristas, and linger without rush. Coffee wasn't a product, it was an experience. Schultz returned electrified, convinced Starbucks could be something more. But the original founders weren't so sure. They turned him down. Schultz's idea felt too risky, too foreign. Starbucks was about beans, not beverages. So he did something bold. In 1985, he left Starbucks and started his own coffee company, Il Giornale, with the very vision they rejected. Il Giornale was a hit. Schultz's espresso bar concept worked. Customers loved the community vibe, the rich Italian brews, and the welcoming atmosphere. It wasn't just about the coffee. It was about the feeling. The founders of Starbucks noticed. In 1987, the original Starbucks owners decided to sell. Schultz didn't hesitate. With help from investors, he bought the company for $3.8 million. His small dream now had a big name and a second chance to transform the coffee world. From that point on, Starbucks spread like wildfire. By the early 90s, stores opened across North America. Schultz wasn't selling coffee. He was selling comfort, connection, and consistency. Each Starbucks felt like a warm, familiar place, no matter the city. Schultz once said, "We're not in the coffee business serving people. We're in the people business serving coffee." That philosophy shaped every detail, from the music to the furniture to the smile behind the counter. It was intentional, every sip. By 1996, Starbucks opened its first international store in Tokyo, then London, then the world. Over the next 10 years, it expanded to over 13,000 stores. Schultz's vision was no longer a vision, it was reality. Brewed strong and steady. But success brewed its own challenges. By 2007, the brand had grown so fast, some feared it had lost its soul. Critics said stores felt robotic. The espresso machines got taller, blocking barista-customer interaction. The magic was fading. Then came 2008. The recession hit and Starbucks struggled. Stock plummeted. Hundreds of stores closed. Schultz, who had stepped down as CEO in 2000, returned to rescue his creation. It was time to reconnect with what made Starbucks special. He shut down every US store for a few hours, just to retrain baristas. It was a bold, symbolic move. He wanted to remind everyone what real espresso tasted like and what real service felt like. The message was clear. Schultz launched new strategies, emphasizing quality, innovation, and digital engagement. Starbucks began offering free Wi-Fi, launching mobile ordering, and expanding its food menu. Slowly, the company rebounded. The brand stayed relevant, even as customer habits evolved. They brought in new drinks like the pumpkin spice latte, which quickly became a cult sensation. Love it or hate it, it was a marketing masterpiece. One that proved Starbucks understood not just coffee, but culture. By 2010, Starbucks was back on top. Schultz had turned a near collapse into a comeback. And here's your friendly reminder. If this story's got you sipping inspiration, maybe hit that subscribe button before your coffee gets cold. But Schultz didn't stop at lattes. He wanted Starbucks to stand for more. He pushed for ethical sourcing, investing in farmers and sustainable practices. The company committed to 100% ethically sourced coffee, working with conservation groups around the globe. He also focused on employees, what Starbucks calls partners. They were offered healthcare, stock options, and even college tuition programs. Schultz believed that happy employees brewed better coffee and built better connections with customers. Sometimes, Schultz wasn't afraid to mix business with beliefs. From advocating for racial equality to supporting veterans and LGBTQ+ rights, Starbucks took public stances that sparked both praise and backlash. But Schultz stood firm. In 2016, Schultz stepped down again as CEO. He said it was time for a new generation to lead, but he didn't disappear. His name floated in political circles, and he even considered a run for president. Yet for many, his legacy isn't political, it's personal. Starbucks became the place for first dates, job interviews, late-night study sessions. It's where strangers became friends, over a tall Pike Place or a caramel macchiato. The journey from a tiny Seattle shop to a global empire wasn't just about selling coffee. It was about vision, risk, and holding on to values, especially when they were hardest to keep. Schultz once said, "In life, you can't connect the dots looking forward, only backward." Looking back, every risk he took, leaving Starbucks, buying it, bringing it back, was part of a bigger story, one that brewed over time. Today, Starbucks has over 35,000 locations in 80 countries. But the real number that matters? The millions of people who find a little comfort in their daily cup. A small ritual in a noisy world. It's easy to forget that behind every global brand is a personal story, a moment of inspiration, a stubborn belief, a journey that starts with a single cup and ends with a legacy written in foam. Howard Schultz didn't just build a coffee company. He built a modern-day gathering place, a third space between home and work, a place where conversations start and ideas flow, fueled by caffeine and human connection. From Milan's espresso bars to Wall Street's boardrooms, his journey proves that the best ideas don't come from spreadsheets. They come from paying attention, caring deeply, and daring to dream in flavor. And maybe that's the most powerful part of this story. Not just what Starbucks became, but how it got there. With grit, heart, and a belief that even a cup of coffee can change the world. So the next time you sip your latte, think of Schultz. Think of the dream behind the drink. Because sometimes, the most ordinary things, like coffee, can carry the most extraordinary stories. And who knows? Maybe your great idea is sitting in a cup, waiting to be stirred.